Hello and welcome to Design Tools. I am your host, Gabriel Botkins. This is our very first season in which we will be covering 3D Studio Max. In today's episode, we will be covering creating a parts library. So without further ado, let us get started. Now, we covered the UI and a few of the basics in episode 1. It was very quick, very dirty. I'm assuming that you do have a little bit of experience in 3D Studio Max, and maybe you just need a refresher. So we're going to jump into it. Now, one of the things you could do in 3D Studio Max is create a part and save it out, and then eventually, if you know you're going to reuse that part or object, you could bring it back in over and use it over and over again. And so that's what we're going to do today. And it's going to be very basic. We're going to get into a little bit of texturing, because in order to get the part and finish it, you want to have it right. That way you don't have to alter it again at any point once you throw it into a new scene. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and explain what I'm doing as I'm going through it. So what we're going to do is make a 2x4 first. So I'm going to go into the top view here, hit Alt-A to make it a full view. This drag, and then I'm going to clear out these little bits here. No height segments. Now the 2x4, they're not actually 2 inches by 4 inches. They are indeed, it should be 1, and this is an interesting thing that you could do here. You could do 1 inch, and although it's on decimal inches, I can go out here and then hit 7, divide by 16, and I get 1.438, right? So the same thing with the width, it's 3 7/16, so 3.438 inches. And then by default, I'm just going to make it, I think 16 feet. I have a whole list of heights here. We're going to work with 3 of them today. But the longest 2x4 that I'm aware that you're able to get from the hardware store is 16 feet. I'm going to zoom in here. And I'm going to do something a little extra. First, I'm going to center it. So I hit W. And then it's already 0 height. And then I'm going to zero it out on X and Y. So if we hit Alt-W and look at our windows again, I'm going to zoom. So on our grid, the bottom is at 0 along with the pivot. That's exactly where we want it. So when we drop it in the scene, the bottom of the 2x4 is at 0 and it's standing up in the air. Wonderful. Now, a lot of you can skip this next step. Actually, no, you can't skip this one. All right. So what we're going to do here is give it a length segment, so it's divided in the center, and a width segment, so it's divided in that center. Now, at this point, you could possibly skip the next steps, but I'm going to do a little bit of extra because this is going to be basically a high poly 2x4. And that means it's going to catch the light, you know, at a hard edge. So I'm going to shade this real quick. And I'm going to hide the vertexes. So when you render it, it's going to have a hard edge, right? Well, I'm going to add just a little bit of curvature to this so it catches the light as it bends around, just like a real 2x4. I'm going to leave the top nice and flat. There's usually a hard edge there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this over to an edit poly. There we go. And you could put it on the stack if you want to edit the box. Actually, let's do it that way. So Control Z. I've still got my box and my modify panel here. I'm going to do the drop down and do an edit poly. Right? That way, if I want to come back and change the height, which I'm going to do, I'm able to do that. So I'm going to hit 2. I'm going to turn the edges back on because I don't want to click and drag because I'll grab all of those. I'm just going to get the ones in the corners because we're going to chamfer those. All right. So if we look at the top, I have those selected still, right? You can see them in red. So I hit T for top. And then I'm going to go over here to the Modify tab and down here to Chamfer. Right? So I don't want a 1-inch chamfer. I want a 1/8 chamfer. So that's 0.125 inches. So that's realistically, I've measured it on a few 2x4s. It's typically somewhere like, I don't know, 30 seconds or 1/8 or whatever it is. So I'm going just to go with 1/8. Rather than just one segment, I'm going to do 3. So if we zoom in here, if we go 2, you can see it's more of a janky point. I want to keep it as minimal as possible, even though this is excessive. But that's what I want, right? So that's our 16-foot 2x4. I'm gonna put it in perspective here. If it'll listen, there we go. All right, now we're in perspective. That's quite it's 16 feet tall, right? So that is our 2x4. And from this, we are going to create all other 2x4s. But before we do that, if I drop it in the scene, it's not textured. It's always going to be this, whatever color, this funky green default color. If you watched the first episode, I showed you how to do the setup to make sure that you could do the renderer, and that we've got our mental ray renderer enabled. And I'm going to hit M for material library, or you could come up here and press the material editor button. Go into our Autodesk library. I'm going to drag this. Well, first we'll move the view over here. And then we're going to go down to wood. So we have a variety of woods. Beech, birch, doodah. Do we have pine? Here we go, pine. So we're going to drag this into our viewport. So it has the bump image and the texture. And then we're going to double click this. We're going to show the background in preview. And we're going to click the one next to it, show shaded material in viewport. And then we're going to assign it to the object. There we go. Right? So I'm going to close this for now. And if we look at this, we'll change this to front. We'll turn off our grids for right now. So it's, a little tight-grained. It's not quite realistic. I'm going to change this from the clay to realistic. All right? And I'm also going to, for right now while I'm thinking of it, I'm going to press 4 to get to polygon while it's selected. I'm going to hit Control-A to select all faces. I'm going to clear all. Over here in the command panel. Clear all. And then auto smooth. Right? That way it's nice and rounded. I could probably... what if we change this to 20? I'm going to select all of them first. I'm going to change this to 15 and see what we get. Alright, clear all, 15, auto smooth. I don't know if that looks any better. So I'm going to press 1, select some vertices, and zoom in that way. So basically what I want is these two surfaces plus this surface plus this surface. Whoops, not that one. One next to it. There we go. Alright, those are all 2. Then I'm going to take these, 1, 2, 3. And that's not what I want. I'm going to make them all part of 3. Right? There we go. And then take this one and this one and this one. Whoop. Rotate over here. Make those a part of. Take off the 2. Turn them on 3. Take this one, and this one. Clear those off. And make them a part of 4. Oh, I gotta put this one back on 3. So it's part of both. Surface can be that. So that's exactly what I want. Let's see if I get the same effect across the board. And I do. So that's good enough. The auto smooth will work just fine. Now what's not quite right is the texture. So I'm going to press 1. So I'm just on the object, not on any part of the sub-object. It's a little unwieldy because it's 16 feet tall. The next thing I'm going to do is UVW map. This is how we apply textures, or map the texture, one way. This is going to be quick and dirty. Sometimes real-world coordinate maps are turned on by default. In this case, it's not for me, but I'm going to change it to cylinder. And then I'm going to change this to, let's say, I can hit fit. There we go. Wow, that is not right at all. But I'm going to double the size of this to 7 inches. I'm going to double this to 7 inches. And then I'm going to click up here on the modify stack. So UVW map is highlighted. Oh dear. I'm going to move this. That doesn't look right one bit at all. Because I was hoping that would be circular. That doesn't make any sense to me. But I also know that it shouldn't be 16 feet tall. That's just a little bit too much. We'll go ahead and make it 4 feet tall. And that's still not quite what I want it to be. Let's see if I reduce the size of this. I was hoping we'd get it to warp. But it doesn't look like it wants to do that. Okay, so I'm going to do 8 inches, 8 inches. We're going to do 4 feet. Now we're going to do 3 feet. 3 feet. Let's look like a 2 feet. Okay, we're going to do this at 0.33 inches, 0.33 inches, 323. Alright. Maybe that'll work for now. Yeah, not exactly what I want. So, but I'm still working with this. I can move it around. Maybe we'll get something better. Totally not what I wanted. But that'll work. That looks good enough. I wonder if we change. So we've got the U tile and the V tile. If we increase this to 2 and 2, which is too many. We'll just keep it at 1 each and live with this for now. We have no light in the scene, but this may not be tall enough either. We'll go ahead and do a quick render here. Whoop! Yeah, I don't like that at all. And one of the things that we have to take a look at here, one of these faces is messed up. So I'm back in edit poly mode by clicking on it on the stack. So you are here, you are group 2, you're group 3, you're group 2, group 2, group 3. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and now we'll select all, clear all, auto smooth, and then we'll render it again. How does that look? And that is still not right. Okay. Group 3, Group 2, Group 3, what are you part of? What happens if I make you part of Group 2 as well? Render? Still get a dark shadow. Again, I don't have a light in here. But at least it looks smooth. We're going to change this to 25. Clear all, auto smooth. Okay, looks better. Render. Well, I hope that's just a light thing. But I'm not happy with the density of our map. I'm going to go back to UVW map. Cylindrical, let's say. Where are you? From the top view, okay. Now, why is that not working? Because I left it on edit poly mode. Here we go. Overall, does not look quite right. So the other thing that we can do, if we're unhappy with this, is that we can change it to a box. We'll go ahead and move this up here. Give it a quick render. Completely dissatisfied with that. So we're going to change this to a box, see how that looks. Do a render. Not happy with it, too noisy. I'm going to click fit. Try another render. Nothing but noise. So I'm going to Control Z, Control Z. And then if we do, let's see what happens if we do a free here. Nothing. I really thought that we would be able to get this to warp in kind of a more circular fashion. If we do 2 inches and 2 inches, sorry that we're figuring this out, but that's part of what the texturing is that you've got to work it out. And we can do this just on the top only. What if we just make it 2 feet? 2 feet and 2 feet. Hideous. Getting there though. Okay. So we'll do 1 foot, 1 foot. Could be the quality of our textures are not all that great anyway. Alright. Run to that, see how that looks. Okay, that's good enough for our purposes. Right, so we can take this and name it 2x4 pine 16 feet 001. I add the 001 at the end of it because every time you drop a new one in, it'll change it to 002, 003, etc. for each one that you add, and it helps keeping track of things. I am going to change the height though, if I can, to 8 feet. Let's see if this gets any better or worse as I stretch it out. And, all right, we're going to call it 5 feet. All right, so that looks good right now. Now, if you want to edit these, if you're just going to drop them in, you can go ahead and collapse the stack, collapse all. And go top view, grid, so it's zeroed out, so that way when you drop it in, it's always right where your cursor is. I'm going to do, I've already set up a few folders, and I'll show you how I have it set up. So if we go to File, Save As, I'm going to go to the Libraries, Documents, 3ds Max, and then I've made a folder called Props. And then I have a bunch of props, but I have a folder just for this called Lumber, 2x4. I don't have any set in yet, so I'm going to call it 2x4 pine 16 feet. Hit save. Actually, I should go, I'll rename it so it starts with the height. 16 feet 2x4 pine. Alright. So what that'll allow us to do in the future is when we're starting a new scene, we can click Utilities on the command panel, then go click on the Asset Browser, excuse me, and then we go to Lumber, 2x4s, and we have 16 foot 2x4 pine, right? So we can drag and drop it in, merge file. We could use scene material since it's the same, and there we go, right? And that's, you know, assuming that that doesn't exist, and then we could go and hold down Shift and drag and make as many of those as we want. The number of copies 4, we can make them instances, doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter depending on what you're going to do. So there we go, right? We now have 5 evenly spaced 2x4s. Now what I'm going to do next, I'm not going to make you watch, but I'm going to show you what we could do here real quick, is I'm going to hit Control-Z a few times till we go back to a point before I collapsed. Oh, all right. So, unfortunately, I should not have done that. But, basically what I'm going to do, I have a whole list of heights here. And if I didn't collapse it, I would be able to go into the stack and change the height to whatever I wanted. If I clicked on box, it would still have the stats here. So, unfortunately, I didn't plan it very well. I will do another one very quickly for you just to show you, all right? I'm not going to talk my way through it. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So we've got, basically our 2x4 here. I'll punch in the dimensions, which is, I don't remember what that was. So I'm going to type in the fractional, all right? And then we've got 3.438 inches as well. And then we're going to do a 14-foot version. We have the height and width segments still, right? Because a lot of the times when plans will call for 2x4s on center. I'm going to go into this, and this is why I did the stack, edit poly rather than just a straight conversion, so that way I can go down and edit the box height. So 2, I'm going to select those outer edges. I'm going to chamfer down here, and I hit the little box. If I hit the button, then it's a click and drag thing, but if I hit the box next to it, the settings, then I can go into 0.125 inches. I could change that to 3, right? There we go. I'm going to go ahead and 4, click clear all, and then auto smooth 45 inches, so it's nice and smooth all the way around. We'll go to the front view. So we got a 16 and a 14 foot. And then we'll bring up, hit the 4 or turn off the poly mode so we're in the whole object. Well, we've already got the showing and seen, so we don't have to click those again. We'll just assign the material. And then I can UVW map it real quick. Go to cylinder. I don't remember what the measurements were since I killed it. I didn't write it down. We'll just say 4 inches, 4 inches, and what was it? 5 feet. And then we'll look at it from the top. We'll highlight the UVW map, move it off to the side so we have a half decent grain here, although it looks cattywampus as can be. Okay. And I think that's relative to what we want, right? Okay. So one of the things we can do is if we select this, whoops. So I just turn off that. We have the object there. I can, let's get this one out of the way. And then move this to 0 on the X, move it to 0 on the Y. It's already 0 on the Z. And we can go to File, Save As, wait for it to come up, Save Selected. And then we'll click on the name. Rather than 16 foot, it is 14 foot. And there we go. So assuming that this never happened, I didn't collapse it, then I could go back to the box. Let's see, and so it'll say a modifier exists in the stack that depends on topology. Changing the parameters may have undesirable effects. The dependent modifiers at poly, are you sure you want to continue? Yes. At this point, we could do 12 feet. There we go. And then we could rinse and repeat. Right? So it still has our chamfers on it. It still has our poly modeling on it. You can do File, Save As, Save Selected. Click up here for the name. Edit that to 12 feet. Now, one thing that I didn't do was change the name of these. So I got to go back and do that. That's why you want to make sure that you do everything right the first time so you don't have to go back and edit it. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and finish up my library. I'm going... one that I do want to do... Actually, I won't go ahead and finish it. I'll just jump back here. Click yes. I want an 8 foot. All right. And how did I name these? Copy that name. Go up here and paste it. Rather than 16 feet, I'm going to type in 08 feet. So I have my 8 foot board. Now this is 8 foot is a very standard height for 2x4s. I've got my 16 foot here. But if you want an 8 foot wall, for instance, I'm going to rotate this 90 degrees on the Z axis, and then I'm going to rotate it again another 90 degrees. There we go. Look at it from the front. Now you'll see that it's not on the 0 axis, so I'm going to go up to my hierarchy tab in the command panel. affect the pivot only. And I should, let's see, where is reset pivot? Reset pivot. Center to object. It should be Z up. But since I'm affecting pivot only, I'll just rotate it. 90. X is facing towards us, so I'm going to rotate that again another 90. And then I'm going to hit W for move. And then S for snap. Snap is now on, so off, on with snap. Move it up, you see the little band, and I'm going to snap it to the lowest point at the base of the board. So now I have, that is basically a horizontal board at this point. So I turned off affect pivot only. You could jump back, and then I'm going to zero this out. Boom, right there. Okay? So now it's laying flat on the 0 plane. If you want to make an 8-foot tall wall, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to affect the pivot again. Right? But this time I'm going to move it up to the top of the board that's laying flat horizontally. Turn that off. And then I'm going to go down and type in 8. Right? So I'll show you what the difference is here. The pivot's at the bottom of the board. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to type in 8. Whoops, not 8 inches, 8 feet. There you go. And if we look at them, they're laying stacked on top of each other. You don't have to do this for, for each part. I'm just showing you how to figure out what the distance of your 8-foot, or the height of your 8-foot 2x4, not so that it is 8 feet, but so it is the correct height. And what I could do here, since this is not the correct height, it's, intersecting with the board, I'm going to use my measure tool. I'm going to come up here. Got snap on still. Coming down. Boom. It's 7 feet 9.208, which is wrong because it should be 7 feet 9 inches and 1/8. So maybe I messed up there, but that's, I'm going to take this, I'm going to delete these, well, I'll leave them there for now, but I'll select this one and go back to the Modify tab. I'm going to go down to the box, hit yes, so I can change it. And I'm going to change it to 7 feet, 9.125 inches. Alright, so it took the height off of the top. And there we go. Alright. So, and perhaps my pivot point, oh, that's because it's the top one. My pivot point may not be at the right spot. In fact, it is not. I didn't move it all the way up. And that is why. However, I knew what the height should have been, so I could grab it. It's on snap. I can pull it down, and now they're aligned. No, they're not. They're still not aligned. This is the problem when you have chamfered edges. It's a risk you take. What can I say? I'll move this out here to make it a little bit easier. Oh, no, that was correct. Okay. Is it? No, it's not. So, yeah. And I hit F3 so I get the wireframe. So I was grabbing it here. I need to grab it right there. And I need to make sure that it's on the Y. There we go. Now everything's okay. So, knowing that we have a 2x4, vertical 2x4 that is 7 feet 9 inches and 1/8, I can get rid of those two. I can reselect this. I can go ahead and turn it back on, right? I'm going to center it. That way, whenever I drop it into the scene, it's right where the cursor is. And then I can change this to, what is it, 7.75 essentially? 7.75 feet. It's not an exact measurement, but that's basically what it is. You want 7.75 feet. We'll save it. Well, once we get our stack back, okay. Yes, the UV map doesn't look quite right sitting where it is, but that's the way we like it. Save as. Save selected. Whoop. So we now have a 07.75 feet 2x4 made out of pine. Save it. And just for the sake of whatever the heck, so we have it in stock, we're going to make an 8-foot file save as, save selected. 0.8 feet. Cancel that because I didn't change the name. This is the thing when you get into doing this. You'll forget steps if you're in a rush. I wanted to make this video a little bit shorter, but hey, you're here for the adventure. You learn when I screw up too. Some of you will be pulling out your hair saying, you're doing it wrong. You messed up. You forgot that thing. 8 feet, 2x4 made out of pine. Save. And go ahead and delete this. Actually, no, I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to move it because I'm going to go through and do the rest of the parts, not make you watch. But I have in my asset browser. Now I have all these pieces of pine that I could grab, merge file, use scene material, place it. I want a 12-foot next to it too. Merge file, use scene material, place it. And there we go, right? So I have heights of 6 inches, 1 foot, 18 inches, 2 feet, 30 inches, 3 feet, 40 inches, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, 8 feet, 7 3/4 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, 14, and 16 feet that I'm going to make. So I will come back to you with more once those are finished for our next steps in episode 3. Good luck to you. Thank you for watching, and we'll get to more of these soon.